Hello and welcome to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg.
I'm Joel.
Teddy might be making his way over. We were just at the Hands Off rally in Missoula, hence our t-shirts, and we had to feed him. So we started without him, but he has made his presence into the room, so maybe he'll join us in a little bit. Anyway, we are here to wrap up the month of March and talk about the books that we read in March and a little bit about what we might read in April. Oh, Teddy must be over us. He's walking out.
He's so tired.
He is.
He said hello to so many people.
His baby's first protest. He had a good time. He said hello to a lot of people and a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
So before we get to our reading, how was your reading month?
Reading month was good. Nothing fantastic, but...
And you managed to read five books.
Yeah.
I managed to read 6. And we have 2 books in common because we did them together.
On our trip to and from Seattle.
Yes. So how was Seattle?
Seattle was fun. Yes. I had to go there for work. So, being that I had to go there for work, I talked to Greg into going with me, and he could work from the hotel. Mm-hmm. And then that weekend, we went over to Port Angeles and met up with, like, one of my long-term best friends.
Yeah.
She
officiated our wedding.
She married us. Mm-hmm. And we've been friends for forever. And she had a baby.
She did.
And her little baby is baby Joel. Yes. So I got to go meet baby Joel. I got to hold him, feed him. Mm-hmm. I did not get to change a diaper. I'm mad, but...
He really wanted to.
I've never changed a diaper, and this is going to be my last chance. So.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't elaborate.
Yeah. So that was a really exciting time to meet him, hold him. He's 7 weeks old, and just totally adorable.
Totally adorable.
But all he wanted to do is eat and sleep, and so they did pump a bottle for me, so I got to feed him with the bottle. So that was very exciting.
He's at that age where, he can only see like 2 feet in front of him. He's still figuring out how his body works and getting his muscle.
Grabbers.
He has a good grip. I mean,
does.
Unfortunately, well, I totally understand why, but our friend Libby would prefer not to have photos of him online, so we can't share photos, but trust us, they are adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so sweet, sweet little boy. So.
He is. And I'm glad we got to spend time with him.
Yeah.
We're both getting over colds, and you've probably seen me sipping tea. So
hot tea.
That's a thing in this house. And while we were in Seattle, we also managed, being safe with the colds we were getting over, and visiting some bookstores, and that was fun. Of course,
so much fun.
I had so much fun. My April book haul is going to be, like, not even kidding. It's going to be insane. So we started at Elliott Bay.
Yep.
I actually had an opportunity to do my thing. I don't always get a chance in independent bookstores because sometimes they're really busy, or you don't want to take up a lot of somebody's time. But I got to do my thing where I asked an employee to recommend a book for me, and the first guy was a little stumped. The second guy really understood what I was going for, and he came up with some books that really challenged my comfort zone a little bit, but we're still in my wheelhouse, which is really interesting.
A couple that he suggested.
Yeah, they sound interesting. So you'll have to wait until my book haul to find out what those are. And then we went to Twice Sold Tales. I had never been. That's a used bookstore. It is chaos inside, but I kind of have fun browsing a chaotic used bookstore. So I could have spent the entire day there, and I found a lot of really good stuff.
Well, the only reason he couldn't stay longer is he got kicked out because it was closing.
They were closing. Yes, that is fair. And it was funny because I said, we're not going to need to be there that long. And you just kind of laughed. Because had you been there before? Or you just know me that well?
I just know you that well. Because we parked illegally. And so I got him in the store. It's like, I'm going to go move the car. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be here for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was a smart decision. And then they have 3 cats in that store as well. Is it 3 or 4?
Maybe
it's 4. We saw 3 of them, but they have 4.
There's the one on the outside. So I saw 3 on the tower, and then 1 as we were going out the door.
Yeah, all rescue cats that live in the store now. So that was cute and fun.
They're cute.
They were. And we went to Book Larder, which is a cookbook store. Loved it.
Very cool bookstore.
Yeah.
They do nothing but cookbooks. They do cookbooks and books about chefs and authors of books. So that was fun.
I would love to go to an event of theirs someday.
Yes.
We'll never be in town for one. But they have this really great cooktop in the back. So I feel like an event there would be so fun.
That would be my dream.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So someday we're gonna have to try to make that happen. And we went to Queen Anne Book Company.
It was really cute. I like that.
That was an adorable store. They had a really interestingly curated fiction section that had a lot of the stuff that you expect to see. And as I was going through, I also found a lot of books that I was unfamiliar with, which, I do this all the time. That's hard to do. So I was impressed, and they were very nice in that store as well. And the only other bookstore, what?
Brick and mortar.
Yeah, so we took a trip out to Redmond. If you follow along, we always have to make it out to Redmond because there's a restaurant there that Joel used to work at called Pomegranate Bistro.
I love that place.
So good.
And it is still good after all these years.
It is. If you are ever in the Seattle area, it is worth a trip out to Redmond to go to Pomegranate Bistro. We have never had a bad meal.
Never. Brunch is amazing. They have cinnamon rolls that are like this big.
Yeah.
And they're so much fun to make. But the dinners are good too. And we had this cocktail called a Snickerdoodle Old Fashioned.
And I was really suspicious when I saw the name. He was like, I think I might order this. And I was like, okay, you go. But I ended up ordering one for myself.
But it came this old fashioned with bourbon under a cloche. And when they lift the cloche, the smoke comes out because it's a smoky bourbon. And there's a Snickerdoodle on top of the highball.
Yeah.
And that Snickerdoodle was like one of the best cookies I've had.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I usually like a chewy cookie that's kind of crisp on the outside. And this is a thin Snickerdoodle, so it's all crispy. But I really liked that cookie.
It had
would
a
eat a
nice
whole bag.
smoky flavor to it. And the bourbon is kind of a smoked too. And it's just really it was a whole show. It was so cool.
When they delivered the drinks, everybody around wanted to know what we had gotten, and somebody at the table next to us ordered one as well. So, yeah. And Chef Lisa is known for her fried chicken. So bear that in mind. It's a great restaurant. But anyway, while we were in Redmond, we detoured to go to Brick and Mortar Books, which is in Redmond, not far from Pomegranate.
Nope.
And we had met the owner at that conference that we went to in Portland in September and October. And he was a really nice guy. Yeah. And so we kind of had never been to the store and we wanted to go, and he was there. And it was so funny. As we were walking around, he looked at us and was like, are you guys authors? Because I feel like I know you and I don't know why. And we've reminded him about the conference. Yeah. So he was such a nice guy.
Well, he taught a class, and after class, he sat and talked to us a little bit.
Yeah.
About kind of our journey and everything. Mm-hmm. And so we did have that little one-on-one. So
yeah. And he's just a very nice guy. And it's a great store.
It was a super nice store.
In a great location. Yeah. Great. There, as I was walking around reading staff recommendations, I think, was it Tina? Tina is my vibe.
Yeah.
There's no reason Tina would be watching this video, but if you're watching this,
Tina, you rock.
You got me, girl. So we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that was Seattle. Are we ready to dive into our March books? Or
let's dive in.
Let's dive right in. And I read 6. You read 5. You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. What did I start with? I started with Memorial Days by Geraldine Brooks. This is a memoir that Geraldine Brooks wrote about her relationship with her husband, Tony Horwitz. And I was particularly interested because I had read Geraldine Brooks before. I had read March when it was like right after it won the Pulitzer. And I mentioned this story earlier on the channel, but Tony Horwitz is the author who got me into nonfiction. I really credit him with that because when I was in my 20s, I had attitude about nonfiction. I was like, it's boring. I don't read nonfiction. I'm a fiction guy. And in a college class, we were assigned 2 or 3 chapters from his book, Confederates in the Attic. And I thought it was so interesting that I ran out and got a copy and read it and loved it. And spoiler alert, one of the books that I got for my April book haul is a hardcover copy of Confederates in the Attic. So anyway, he's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And I just thought it sounded really interesting, so I read it. And it was very interesting because it's all about their relationship and their writing and the grief that she feels after Tony Horwitz died suddenly in 2019 while he was on book tour. And it's a beautiful book, and it sent me on a whole Geraldine Brooks journey that you're going to hear more about. So I would recommend it. what did you have first?
Mine was First Time Caller by B.K. Borson.
I need to read that.
It's a rom-com. Thank you to Danny, that bookish bear, turned me on to it. And it's a super sweet book. This guy is a radio DJ, and he has this call-in thing. It's a little Sleepless in Seattle. The daughter of this woman calls in. It's like, my mom needs a date, blah, blah, blah.
Very Sleepless in
Seattle. And then it just all gets mixed into, she becomes on the radio and the host and the guest kind of fall in love.
Oh.
But they have very differences in a lot of their outlooks. And their journey was to come around both of those and to deal with each other and their thoughts and their feelings on relationships. So it's actually a really good book on navigating differences of different things you want out of a relationship.
And that sounds like the type of romance that I really respond to. It's one reason I like Abby Jimenez, where it's really about people building a relationship and connecting to each other. So, so I need to read that one.
Really great book. A lot of fun.
All right. I am actually out of order. I did a bad job. So my next one is something I actually did on audio, even though we got a copy of it when we were at that conference in September and October. It's 3 Days in June by Ann Tyler. It's a very quick audio. It's a very short book. It is 164 pages. So you could dunk this in your coffee and be done with it in a minute. And it's really cute. I talked a lot about how I think Ann Tyler does great, what people sometimes call domestic life books, where it's just about a person and their life and their relationships to the people who are closest to them. And a lot of the time people will use that term in a derogatory manner, but I do not mean it that way at all, because I think she is sublime at that stuff. I loved Dinner at the Homesick Restaurant, and I'm really looking forward to reading more of her works. I have read Breathing Lessons before, but I was like 20 years old and hated it. So I kind of want to reread it, because I don't think I was ready for like the subtle domestic stuff that she gets at, that she's so good at. And I'd like to go back to it. But I read Dinner at the Homesick Restaurant, which is fantastic. She was a Pulitzer finalist for that. I want to read The Accidental Tourist before I reread Breathing Lessons. So this was great. And it was one of the books that prompted me to say, I feel like I'm having my best reading year ever, because I have not had a dud.
You've had some good books.
I've had some good books. And this one, I think I probably gave it like 3.75 stars or maybe 4 stars, but very good and, very short. You could certainly be done with it quickly. So what do you have next?
My next one is The Best at It by Malik
Pancholi.
If you're unfamiliar with the name, he was Jonathan on 30 Rock,
yes.
Alec Baldwin's male secretary, he has such a small part, but he is so damn funny.
He does the most with that part.
He does.
Yeah.
But this is his first book, and it's a young kid's book. But I wanted to read one of his books and just kind of see and support him. It was for young kids, I get it, but it was a Middle Eastern boy growing up in Ohio, and he's just not good at anything. And everybody thinks he has a crush on this handsome guy in his class, but he doesn't. But it's his journey of trying to be the best at something, but being the best at something is really hard. It's him overcoming and accepting what he is really good at.
Sounds cute.
It's very cute, and it's great for young kids that are just don't know what they're doing or unsure about things. And it's like, no, you're good at something, and just go with it. And his journey goes through a lot of things about himself, his family, and how people think of him. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but he didn't have a crush on the boy, but he had a very different feeling about that boy. And it was really kind of inspiring when I got to the end. I was unsure before I got there, but at the end, it's like, this is really adorable.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had like a young teen or even like in reading age, it's a very easy book.
It's like a middle grade book,
Middle
right?
grade, yeah. I would totally have my kid read it.
Yeah. And you may have made me curious. We're going to have to talk about this more when we're done filming.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you have?
I have... Oh, I forgot to grab it. I did a very bad job. I read The Dutch House by Ann Patchett.
Oh, you did?
I did. And it's like right there. You don't have to get it. It would be a bit of a reach.
Too far from
yeah,
me.
but it is a beautiful cover.
Right there.
It's right there off camera. But it does have a beautiful cover. But I really liked that book a lot. And I still go back and forth about my number one book of the year so far. And I go back and forth about which Ann Patchett I like better, Tom Lake or Dutch House. And my number one, I mean, you know what my number one of the year is as well, like what I'm wrestling back and forth with. I feel like The Dutch House hit me a little more personally because it's a story about a brother and sister. It's a story about the passage of time and family, and it hits a lot of, or checks a lot of boxes in what I'm interested in as a reader. And I just thought it was so beautifully done. And Tom Hanks reads the audio and he does a really great job, even if he does read the chapters weird. Like he says what chapter it is in this very almost flamboyant way. It's like he's really excited to get to a new chapter, but the rest of it, it's just Tom Hanks being Tom Hanks, and it's great. I really liked The Dutch House.
I may have to
a
do
lot.
it.
I'd be curious to see what you think of it, because I feel like I had a very personal reaction to it, especially since the sister in it. So if you know the cover of the book, it is a painting of a young girl. And I didn't know this, but they commissioned the cover of the book to look like a painting that is mentioned in the book of the sister. And she's just this, she is sort of like the caretaker of her younger brother when they are children. And I have an older sister who kind of did the same for me. So it hit me like in my soul. And I loved that book a lot. So what did you have next?
My next one was The Heart of Winter by Jonathan Everson. I'm going to be very kind, and I loved this book. I am going to start by saying, if you read this book, it has a horrible trigger warning of an animal and a death.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that. But I read this book. It's about this older couple. They're celebrating their 70s anniversary or birthdays. And the husband is pretty frail and the wife is pretty spunky and takes care of him. Well, she gets very sick and has a horrible health issue come up, and the husband has to take care of her. And he's not really able to, but he really tries. It's the absolute sweetest book of love and taking care of each other and nurturing each other. It goes back into their past. The author said he wanted to write a book about a woman who was a mother that had a better life than what his mother had.
Yeah, like write the better version of her story.
The better version of her story.
Yeah.
And it was good. They had a loving relationship, but they had some difficulties in their relationship. And there's a really great book of the love between them, the difficulties they each had, the problems they faced, but they overcame. It's an absolute beautiful book. And my complaint is the very last chapter has nothing to do with the book, and it was really upsetting and just did not need to be in the book. If you have read it, please message me, let me know what you think. If they would have just left that chapter out, it probably would have been one of my favorite books.
Yeah, because you were really liking it.
I was really liking it, and that chapter did not need to be in this book at all.
It feels like it completely soured you on the book.
Yeah,
so.
If I would have had a physical book, I would have thrown it. So
yeah, it's a thing we do.
So if you've read it, let me know. If you are okay with some of the triggers I talked about, it could be a really good book. And maybe I'm too sensitive to a subject that I couldn't get over what the meaning was. And I think I know what the meaning was, but there are better ways of doing it. So could have been an absolute gorgeous book, but it fell flat for me.
Yeah, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for me?
Yeah.
All right, so I had a hard time picking what my next physical book was going to be. I spent like a week walking around with a pile of books, trying like the first few pages, seeing what was going to fit, because I'm a mood reader, so sometimes I have to do that to figure out. It's like a journey to find out what I'm in the mood for. And on the last day of this, I thought to myself, well, it doesn't seem like something I would want to read right now, but let me add Year of Wonders by Geraldine Brooks to the pile because I had just read Memorial Days. And that kind of got me interested because she talked about how when she stopped being a war reporter and they settled down and they wanted to be in Virginia and have a family, she didn't know what she was going to do with herself. And Tony Horwitz is the one who convinced her that she should try writing fiction. And Year of Wonders is the result of that. So I thought, maybe that'll be interesting. And then I was on a FaceTime with my sister and we were talking about books, and I held up the closest book, which was this, and she gasped when I held it up and said, I love that book. So I had to read it. And it is a very good book. This is a book that's it is inspired by the real story of a town called Eyam in, I want to say, northern England, where they had incidents of plague, and instead of letting people leave the town, they made the extraordinary decision to close their borders and keep everyone in. And the idea was it would contain the plague within the village and other villages wouldn't have to suffer and the plague wouldn't spread to neighboring villages. And it's this very, very beautiful self-sacrificing thing that they did. And the end result is that the people living in the town had a very hard time of it. 2/3 of the town died over the next year. So this is a kind of a harrowing book, but it's really beautiful. And the protagonist, Anna, I can't remember which, Anna, is a really great character. She struggles with issues of faith and meaning and what it is to suffer for people. And the book really gets into questions of sacrifice, and it hits a lot of pandemic notes because there comes in that question of the people who start taking advantage of other people who are sick and caring for your neighbor versus your own self-interest. And it's really fascinating. Unfortunately, I'd say the last 50 pages get pretty melodramatic, and that kind of makes it go off the rails a little bit, but everything leading up to it was so good that I still really liked the book and would recommend it. It's just a little disappointing that a novel that had such subtlety and restraint and beauty for most of it kind of turned melodramatic in those last 50 pages. But I really liked this book and I would still recommend it. And I'll be talking to you more about Geraldine Brooks.
Okay.
So what did you have next?
Well, our next one I think we have together because we were going to Seattle. And Kim Fay did it again.
She did it again.
Kim Fay did Kate and Frida. She's the author of Love and Saffron.
Yes.
We've done in the past before. Fantastic book.
Yes.
Kate and Frida is in the same lines. It's an
epistolary.
Epistolary.
Novel.
I can never remember that word, but I love those kind of books.
Yeah, and it's a fun word to say.
Yeah.
So.
And one lives in Seattle. And we're going to Seattle. One lives in Seattle, and one lives overseas, and basically in Paris.
Yeah.
And they're writing back and forth. It kind of starts off. She writes Elliott Bay Book Company.
It's a knockoff of it called the Puget Sound Book Company. Yeah.
And looking for a book. And they get this rapport going between them.
Yeah.
And they just write letters back and forth.
So the beginning is kind of 84 Charing Cross Road. And yeah.
But they share their love of books and food and life and
kind of inspire each other because they're both sort of at a crossroads. The woman who works in the bookstore in Seattle had written a book and was unable to get it published, so she feels kind of down in the dumps. And her friendship with Frida inspires her and helps her learn things about life. Frida is in Paris and wants to be a war reporter. And actually this ties back to Geraldine Brooks. Because this is set in the 90s. So the big conflict that was going on at the time is Bosnia, Yugoslavia and everything that happened in there. And she wants to go be a war reporter in Bosnia. And Geraldine Brooks was a war reporter in Bosnia, which is just kind of an interesting parallel between books. So anyway, and they kind of inspire each other, and their friendship pushes them to new limits about life and what you want to do and what to do when you have a failure, or what you expected your life to be doesn't quite turn out, or doesn't turn out the way that you expected. It also has a lot to say about what it is to live in a time of crisis, thanks especially to the Frida storyline. It gets pretty dark in the middle because of that Bosnia storyline, but I really think what it does with that in the end, I didn't feel despair by the end of the book. I didn't feel drained. I kind of felt inspired. And would that be fair?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot.
And because they were pen pals, they didn't have a whole lot of communication. So when she went to Bosnia, she was like offline for 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for Kate. And so you have a part of how Kate navigates through that and her feelings, but then Frida does the same thing on her side and how it comes back together. Yeah. It's really a beautiful book.
It really is. And actually, I think the more I sit on it, the more I kind of appreciate what Kim Fay did. And I was at the beginning, because you need to get to a point where they're friends, it feels a little forced. I think at one point you even like paused it to say, does it feel like this is happening, their friendship's happening? And it is. Their friendship happens really quickly.
I mean, it's not a big book, but I mean, it does progress. But I don't think unnaturally.
No, it needs their friendship to happen quickly, so it makes their friendship happen quickly. Whereas in 84 Charing Cross Road, I can't remember the name of the guy from the bookstore who was writing back to Helene Hanff. He's kind of like a stone wall in a lot of their early letters, and his personality gradually starts to spill in, and it's beautiful in a completely different way.
And Helene Hanff is she's a card.
She's like Frida.
And she just like really teases him. It's like about being so uptight. It's like, you can call me Helene.
So Frida sends this great letter to the Puget Sound Book Company, not the Elliott Bay Book Company, which Kim Fay did work for.
Yeah.
And it's this very flamboyant letter, but she's drinking champagne in a hotel room in Paris and explaining why she's writing to them for the book that she wants. And when the bookstore gets the letter, the booksellers all decide that Kate is the only person perky enough,
Kate,
to respond. And that's kind of how they get on. But so it does happen quickly, but I can easily forgive that.
Highly recommend. It's a great book.
Really great book. And actually, that was my next one. So I have one book left, and I imagine it's the same one that you have left.
Yep. So what's our last book?
So we're going back and forth between two books on audio, and one of them would have been inspired by Kate and Frida, because it's a book that is mentioned. There are a lot of books that are mentioned in this book, but it is one of the books that is mentioned in the back and forth between Kate and Frida,
which we did buy.
Yes, we did. It'll be in my book haul.
Yeah.
So we thought about that one. What we ended up going back to is the book that we had originally thought we would read on the drive home, which is The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. And if you follow along, you know,
our girl.
Yeah, she did it again, basically. So The Friend Zone is her first book, but it doesn't read like a first book. Like, she just knows what she's doing with these books. It's just as good as all the others. In fact, I think it's up there with my favorites of her book. I don't know how you would rank the Abby Jimenez books. But so she wrote a trilogy of books, and The Friend Zone is the first. And then the best friend character from The Friend Zone becomes the protagonist of the second book. I don't know who the protagonist of the third is. But so that is like one little universe. And then she started a separate universe with a series of now 4 books in it. The fourth one just came out. And we have read the other series, except for the one that just came out. It was not released yet when we drove back. And now we have access to the audio. I wish we had a road trip.
I know.
Because reading it with you was a lot of fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Abby Jimenez can really write a character that you absolutely feel connected to, no matter how. But you feel bonded with them, and they're funny, but not trying to be funny.
And they have flaws. but you don't care.
Yeah.
Really.
And we all have flaws. Who doesn't?
Lord knows I do. So
that's what I like about her books. It's like, it's not just a rom-com, but it's two people getting together, trying to navigate their differences.
Yes. So the premise of this one is that Kristen and Josh have a meet cute in a parking lot after he accidentally rear ends her in the street, and they pull over, and her shirt or her dress has been ruined because she spilled coffee on it, and he goes in to get stuff, and she drives off with his t-shirt. He gives her a t-shirt from his car and she just drives off with it. But it turns out they were going to the same place in classic rom-com style, because his best friend is marrying her best friend. So he is the best man at this upcoming wedding, and she is the maid of honor at this upcoming wedding. And they kind of have their little meet cute. They have their awkward meeting again after she has stolen his t-shirt and drove off from the parking lot. And then he has just moved to town from South Dakota. He is working at the fire station, and he picks up a job for her making custom dog furniture. And because he doesn't have a space to do the work, he has to do it out of her garage. But she has a boyfriend who's overseas in the military and is about to come home and move in with her. So they have this flirtation, but they can't do anything about it because she's in a relationship. Her boyfriend is about to come back. And for that reason, they have to stay in the friend zone of the title, and complications ensue.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's handled so well.
It is. It's really a great book.
It really is.
I just loved it. So I'm anxious to get into the other two of that universe.
The other two of that universe and the new one, Say You'll Remember Me, which is in the Part of Your World universe. So,
which I may trigger to if I don't get Beartooth.
Yeah.
So,
which takes us to what we're doing in April.
Yeah.
So I have already finished one book, March by Geraldine Brooks, so I'll be talking about that because that's her book that won a Pulitzer Prize. So I'll be doing a Pulitzer Prize deep dive on that book this month. And in order to do that, I am reading The March by E.L. Doctorow first. So I have to finish this before I can do it, because this came out the same year as March, and it is the book that most people thought was going to win the Pulitzer, and it was a finalist. But March by Geraldine Brooks won, and the fact that they have such similar titles caused a lot of confusion. So I'm starting my month with this.
And didn't even Geraldine Brooks says, no, it's The March.
Yeah, I think the person who told Geraldine Brooks, hey, March won the Pulitzer, she's like, I think you mean The March. And they were like, no, we mean you. So, so this is when I'm starting my month off in print. I had already started the audio of Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange because I want to read that before the Pulitzer announcement, which will be in May. My predictions will be linked down below. What do you have going on in April?
Well, I'm doing one of the books you got me going on.
Oh, yeah.
Salamlik.
By Khalid Al-Ismail.
And I'm really kind of enjoying it. It's just a fun read. But it's actually a little disparaging, too, because, I mean, of the wars happening. And
yeah, it's heavy.
And being gay in a Middle Eastern country during a war. And it's a tough read, but it's actually really good. And I do like his writing because you just feel... You just are with him when he's doing all this. So I really am enjoying it.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that perspective of someone trying to become who they are, and in a time when they can't be who they are, and in a time that's very violent. And I really, really enjoyed that book. So,
do you want to do what other do you have going?
Oh, I have The March and Wandering Stars on audio.
Okay, and I'm challenging myself. I'm doing my very first Toni Morrison book, The Bluest Eye, and I've just gotten into it. I haven't, maybe one chapter, but I have a big road trip tomorrow for work, so I will probably finish it on that road trip. It's a tiny little guy.
Yeah, you could do
in your park, in your coffee.
Yeah.
But she also reads the audio, and it's really, I don't listen to it above 1.0. I want to hear her inflection and her story.
She has one of the best voices ever. I have really, because I struggle with her books because I feel like the way my brain works. I need to read them on the page to spend time with them to figure them out. But we had this whole conversation. I think The Bluest Eye, which was her first novel, is the least complicated, so probably the best one that you could do on audio. So that's kind of where we ended up here.
But this is way too fun
That's
for me
tiny
to
print.
read.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what you think of it when you're done. So, yeah.
And then maybe on the way home, if I don't do an Abby Jimenez book, I've wanted to read Beartooth by Callan Wick. And it's coming available for me on Libby, so I may do it.
Wildly popular Montana author. And book. Huge.
So I figured I've waited so long, and it's coming up next, so I'll probably do it.
Yeah.
And it'll probably get me home from, and then next week, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in Bozeman, so I'll probably do another audiobook.
Yeah.
Because when I'm on the road, I can just do an audiobook and go to dinner, do an audiobook, walk around downtown, play around, look at bookstores, and do an audio. So I have a lot of free time.
Yeah. So that'll hopefully give you a good head start. And then I have some library books, and I need to figure out which of those I'm going to cram in the month of April. But, I'm trying to keep plans loose because I had plans for February, I had plans for March, and they didn't happen. Like in March, I said I was going to read Irish authors. None of these authors are Irish that I talked about. I mean, maybe, but not by birth. So, yeah. But I have things. I might read another book from the year that not Year of Wonders, March and The March were published on audio, just to get a well-rounded sense of that year for my Pulitzer deep dive. And beyond that, I don't really know. Like I said, I'm going to keep it easy and see what happens.
Yeah.
So Teddy is snoring away behind us. He definitely got wiped out.
Yeah,
he had a lot of fun. So let's get back to him.
Yep.
And leave it at that. We're already a little into April. I'd love to hear what you've been reading in March, what you read in March, what you've been reading in April, and all of that good stuff. Let us know where.
Down below.
Down below. And we'll be back, as always. So in the meantime, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Happy reading.
Happy baking.